The following is a special presentation of Keeping It 100. Watch future episodes exclusively on Soul of the South, available over the air on 30.4, or contact your local cable provider.
Hello, I'm Michael Victorian, and I'd like to welcome you to Keeping It 100. Today's topic is how to build wealth. According to the Pew Research Center, the typical white household's wealth is 20 times that of black households, the most lopsided ratio since the government began collecting the data 25 years ago. As of 2009, the typical black household had just $5,700 in wealth, while the typical white household had $113,000. This is despite the fact that the blacks are making more income than they've ever done before. So today about gaining wealth, our guests are David Gray and Lauren Crenshaw. Gentlemen, would you please introduce yourselves?
All right, how you doing, Mr. Victorian? And audience, my name is David Gray. I'm a research analyst with the Louisiana Budget Project. We're a Baton Rouge-based independent nonprofit organization that conducts state-level policy research. We look at bills and determine how spending decisions are going to impact low and middle income households. I'm a New Orleans native, graduate of St. Augustine High School, and a graduate from Tulane, and I'm proud to be on the show today.
Okay. Lauren?
Glad to be here, Michael. Lauren Crenshaw, I head investor relations at Albemarle Corporation. It's a $3 billion specialty chemicals company. I also head financial literacy at Star Hill Church. We have a Wealth Builders program, and with the 100, our Dollars and Cents high school program.
Okay, very good. So we're going to get right into it with our questions. So gentlemen, the first question I have is, so how is it that African Americans are earning more income but aren't earning more in wealth? And Lauren, can we start off with you?
Yeah, well, those are two different things. First of all, income and wealth are defined differently. Income is what you earn, and wealth is, you could say, what you keep. Wealth is assets minus liabilities. And as I go around the community and talk with folks of all across the social spectrum, many people don't distinguish between income and wealth. If you make a good income, they think that you are wealthy. And those are two very different things.
Okay. David, can you?
And I definitely think building off of that, if you look at the fact that people are earning more, but their expenses are also increasing at a faster rate. For example, childcare costs are significantly greater today than they have been at any other point in history. So even if you are earning, let's say, $2,000 more per year, but you have 3 kids and you're paying $5,000 more in childcare, where although you're earning more, your expenses have gone up. And like Mr. Crenshaw said, what that does is that eliminates your ability to create that wealth. So you could be earning more money, but because your expenses are greater, you're actually not saving any of that money, and therefore you're not accumulating any wealth.
Okay. So let's look at the next question. In your opinion, what are some of the threats to wealth in the African American community?
Okay, I guess I'll start with that one. I think one of the major threats in the African American community is the high volume of predatory lenders that market unsafe financial products to our communities. And so if you drive around any African American community, whether it's here in Baton Rouge or in my hometown of New Orleans, you see payday lenders, you see auto title lenders, you see individuals who will do your taxes and give you a refund anticipation loan. All those things look like ways to help people out of a bad financial situation, but what winds up happening is people become trapped in the cycle of debt, where they're always trying to pay off that loan. And as you keep trying to pay off that loan, you are no longer able to save. You're no longer able to put that money into a bank account or into a college savings account for your child. A lot of people who take out these predatory loans file for bankruptcy. Some people even lose their house. And so one of the major threats to building wealth in the black community, at least from my perspective, is these high rates of payday and other forms of predatory lenders.
Okay. Lauren, Can you share?
I think one of the things is somewhat cultural, and that is the perception of wealth. I go back to the first question. What does it mean to be wealthy? When I look at MTV and I see country music stars, I don't see them wearing what they think are signals of wealth, like gold chains and expensive cars, et cetera. I think that our kids are seeing these sorts of images and associating them with what I'm going to do when I make money, and what they're looking at are depreciating assets. And so I think that that's a unique cultural aspect that I observe. The other thing that holds not just blacks back, but I think it's an American phenomenon, is that we don't keep score. You wouldn't play a basketball game and not know how to keep score.
Correct.
But if you ask the average person, what's your approximate net worth? They don't know. Well, then how can you improve it?
Exactly.
And so I think
Exactly.
there's some definition and some knowledge building blocks that we have to tackle.
Okay. And I understand about the predatory lending. I understand about the culture. So, but can you share with us, just in your opinion now, the disciplines of savings? I remember when I first started, I had this guy tell me, "Hey, look, make sure you at least have 10% taken off the top, and as you can do more, you do more in terms of on your job." So, can you share any information on that in terms of how do you gain the discipline to begin saving?
Right. Well, there's so many tools out there, from the most simple to the sort of digital. I think you have to start with a plan. And if you don't have a plan to save money by the end of the month, you won't.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And you'll know it because your pockets will be empty, or your check will bounce. And so I think you have to start with a budget. It's very simple and I would say mundane, but if you don't plan to save, you won't. And so the first thing is to create a budget. But there are lots of applications like mint.com, mint.com, which allow you to put your budget online, and then it tracks it for you automatically. It categorizes your expenses, looks at your bank accounts and screens those. And so there's lots of digital tools beyond just a piece of paper that allow you to stay on target. But if you don't have a plan, then anything will get you where you're going.
Okay.
And if I could build off of that, one thing that my parents taught me at a very young age is how to save and how to tithe. And I remember being, a 9-year-old boy getting my $20 allowance, and my dad saying, "Okay, take 10% of that and put that towards your tithes, take 10% of that and put that towards your savings, and then you have the other 80% to do whatever it is you need to do or what you want to do." And so I would encourage any parents out there who have young kids, teach them while they're young. One thing that the 100 does is they educate high schoolers on not only savings but also on investing. And when you make those applications real to your kids, those habits stick with them. They've stuck with me. They stuck with a lot of other people who I know. And so that's one component of it. And then also just want to really reiterate that point that you have to come up with a plan.
Okay. And David, I want to get back to that in terms of what the 100 is doing, other communities is offering for our community in building wealth. But right now, we'd like to take a commercial break. Please stay tuned and come right back. And while we're on our topic of building wealth. I like to plug us.
So I'll probably talk about what we're doing and some stuff that the United Way does.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. Today we're talking about building wealth, and we have our guests, Lauren Crenshaw and David Gray. So when we left, David, you were talking about programs within the community. Lauren, I know as a member of the 100 and one of our board members, you head up the 100 Black Men of Metro Baton Rouge Dollars and Cents program. If you could share a little about that program, please.
Sure. No, the Dollars and Cents program is our principal program for helping to build these knowledge blocks that we're talking about in terms of closing the knowledge gap and then closing the wealth gap. It's a program that takes place at Southern University in the spring. This year it'll start March the 9th and it'll go for 8 weeks. It's every Sunday for 3 hours, very substantive period of time. And I always like to say it's not a captive audience. We have attracted 50 kids over the past couple of years. Last year we had 25, and they come for 8 weeks on Sundays for 3 hours, and they learn the basics of savings, of budgeting, of investing. They actually invest real money, $2,500, okay, which is actually up to $3,000 from last year's class. They have a chance to win a $1,000 scholarship based off of an essay. But more than anything, they're closing these knowledge gaps and reducing the intimidation factor around risk and investing. And ultimately, two of them will join us at our national convention to represent the 100 of Baton Rouge at our national convention.
Right, and if anybody in the audience wants to have their children inquire about this program, just call us, the 100 office at 9444, and we'll get all the information to you. David, if you could share with us some other programs throughout the community.
Right, and so in addition to that one, there's two other programs that right now are very active. At the Louisiana Budget Project, we're doing a statewide tour to educate people about the dangers of payday and predatory lending. It's something that I talked about before, that a lot of times when we find ourselves in financial constraints and we're looking for quick cash, we as African Americans oftentimes go to payday lenders and we are not able to pay off those loans. And so in addition to educating our children and our high schoolers about savings and investing, we also need to educate ourselves about our financial practices and how we can get out of debt and how we can protect our assets. In addition to what we're doing at the Budget Project, we're also working with the United Way. They operate a volunteer income tax assessment program right around times taxes are due. So instead of going pay somebody to do your taxes, you can go check out the United Way's website. They help you do your taxes for free. They make sure that you get your maximum returns, but again, it's for free. So you get to save all that money that you're owed. So check out their website also and their information.
Thank you very much. So let's get back to a couple of things. And this question is, in your opinion, what are some of the reasons why you think African Americans aren't building wealth? And we may have touched on it before, but if we could take a little deeper dive into it, Lauren, we'll start off with you.
Yeah, it might have in part to do with risk taking, I would say. I think if you look at surveys that have been done by Charles Schwab over the years in Ariel Capital Management, what it says is that attitudinally, we have more of a risk-averse demeanor. We are less likely to allocate our assets toward the stock market, more likely to simply own our home than to take risk. We think the market is dangerous and there's a lot of risk inherent in it. And there is if you aren't diversified. A lot of people lost a lot of money in 2008 and then again in 2011. So there's a right way to do it, but I think attitudinally we are more risk averse.
Okay. David?
And I think building off of that also, and it's a point that you made earlier, is that culturally we don't emphasize savings and building wealth. And so a young man will get out of college and get a job that pays $35,000 a year, and the first thing that we'll do is we'll go out and we'll buy a new car, or we'll go out and buy a new pair of J's, or we'll go out and try to go to everybody's football game and go on vacations, and we don't think to ourselves, number one, I have a lot of bills to pay. $35,000 really isn't that much. How can I save this? And number two, I might fall on a hard time. I might get sick, or my mom might get sick, or I might get laid off. There's a lot of people who've been getting laid off recently, both in the government and in private corporations, and you need that savings to get you through that rainy day. So part of it is just taking it upon ourselves to educate ourselves on the basics of savings and then also on the basics of investing. There's a lot of people making a lot of money out there, and we need to make sure that we put ourselves in the best possible position to also be able to capture some of those returns.
Very good. Lauren,
I would also say a mentality that I also encounter is investing something that rich people do. And when I get a lot of money, then I will invest. And it's actually the opposite. Building wealth takes time, and it doesn't take very much. You can go to sharebuilder.com. Each one of the kids in our dollars and cents class gets $100, and they put it in sharebuilder.com. There are no fees except for the transaction fee. And there you go. You've started your investment account. So I think we'll invest when we have money.
Right. So, just one quick question. I know we talked about it and the dollars and cents program. What's the average age of the kids that?
Sure, these are high school students. Yeah, these are high school students. We tend to have some freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors. It's kind of across the board. Yeah.
Okay, right. And I know at National in New Orleans in June of last year, the team that you brought up, they did pretty well.
They did very well. They did very well. They ranked 4th out of, I think, 13 or 14 teams. And I always say, our goal, I always want to win, no matter what I do. And we should have won, but that's a point for another day. More importantly, much more importantly, one of the gentlemen actually just got an internship with Northwestern Mutual, and he brought his presentation into the interview to show them that he knew his stuff, and he got the job. That's more important than winning, and those are the kind of stories that make us feel like we're doing the right thing.
Very good, very good. David?
And I just think building off of that, if you look at our schools and the state of our school systems, we don't always teach children financial education. We don't always teach them how to save. We don't always teach them how to manage money. We'll teach them how to count, but we don't get much beyond that. And so being able to participate in a program like the dollars and cents program that the 100 is operating is critical, again, for teaching kids and getting them while they're young.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, we're just about out of time on this particular segment. We'll be right back with our very last segment. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back in a few minutes. We're going to just take a time for a commercial break. Please stay tuned, and we'll see you in a few. Welcome back to Keeping It 100 on our final segment of How to Build Wealth. Today we have David Gray and Lauren Crenshaw, our panelists for today. Again, thank you for being with us, gentlemen. I want to get right back into the next question for our last segment is, what are some of the things that African Americans can do to build and protect their wealth?
Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, I guess I'll start with that one.
Right.
And some of these points we've made earlier, but repetition is the father of learning. That's what
Right.
they say. Number one is set a goal for savings, or and try to figure out how much you want to save each month. How much do you want to save each year? And it doesn't have to be an astronomical number. You don't have to save $100,000 in your first year. You want your goal to be something that's realistic enough for you to accomplish, but something that's also challenging so that you strive towards it and you feel like you've accomplished something when you get to that goal. And after you establish that goal, then you want to make a budget. Look at how much money you're bringing in, look at how much money you're expending, and try to identify areas in your budget in terms of places where you're spending money that you can cut back on. Is it possible to not go out to eat as much? Is it possible not to buy as many cups of coffee? Is it possible to use less gas? Or are you driving extra places just for the sake of driving?
And bring your lunch.
And bring your lunch to work.
Right.
Bring your lunch. I'm a big fan of bringing my lunch to work. I have it sitting out in the car right now, actually. And once you begin to do those things, and you start saving money and you reach your savings goals, then you can also look at paying off bills. Is there a way to pay off credit card debts? Let's say you owe 3 credit cards. Identify one that you want to pay off, pay that one off, and rather than using that minimum payment to go buy some new J's, you take that money that you would have put on that first credit card and apply that to the second credit card, and you begin snowballing that payment, and you pay off those cards quickly. Those are just a couple of things that you can do to get started, and there's a plethora of resources out there, but I won't take up all the time on the question because I know Mr. Crenshaw is the director of investing, and he's the money man.
Right.
So.
Right. But you're exactly right. And these things aren't that difficult. It's almost like gravity. These are just basic principles. So you're right on target. I would just add insurance. Obviously, everyone should have automobile insurance and homeowners insurance, but a 6-month savings that would carry you for 6 months in case you lose your job or just in case of some sort of natural disaster, that helps you preserve wealth because you don't have to go to a payday lender because I've got cold hard cash that I've been saving that keeps me on track. And so that's a form of insurance. And then you talk about investing, and don't be intimidated by investing. Open that ShareBuilder account, get started. Don't think it's something that you're going to do sometime later. Start now.
Right. So guys, what I'm hearing is let's sacrifice while we're young, early, right? So that we can enjoy the fruits of our labor as we grow older.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
So next question. What are some of the ways that we can, what's some of the ways that people can use to get out of their debt? And you mentioned one by paying off a credit card and use that money, but any other
I mean,
words of wisdom?
that's. I mean, I can't emphasize that point enough. Is look at all your debts. Let's say you have a credit card bill that you owe, you have a car note that you owe money on, you have a student loan debt that you owe money on, and maybe a home mortgage or something like that. And so you're looking at all these bills. If you can pay one of those off sooner than later, pay that one off, and take whatever you normally would be spending on that a month. So let's say you pay off your car note first, and you get your car done. And let's say your car note was $275 a month. Don't take that $275 and go on vacation with it. Take that $275 and apply that to that student loan payment and knock that out. Because not only are you paying off debt in one sense, but because you're paying those bills earlier, you're actually saving money. And when you pay off all of those debts, then you could take that money and put that towards savings. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. You're paying off the debt, and at the same time you are generating wealth and putting yourself in a position where you can save, that 6 months worth of income in case you fall on a hard time.
Very good. Lauren,
Yeah, no. Well, I think first things first, you want to establish this safety net. You want to establish 2 or 3 months of savings that would get you through in case something goes wrong. I think you then want to establish that budget. You can't put out a fire if you keep on lighting a match.
Right.
And so you won't get out of debt if you don't stop spending and you're not even sure how you got here. So I think you've got to do that savings account, you've got to do that budget to stop the fire, and everything you just said with respect to taking one account at a time and tackling it with the excess cash that you have.
Okay. Gentlemen, one of our last questions. Are there any resources that people can use or places people can go in our community to learn more about building wealth? And we'll start off with you, David.
Okay, and once again, I mentioned it a couple of times on the show. The Louisiana Budget Project is doing 18 presentations actually across the state on the dangers of predatory lending, and within that, there's a portion that we do on wealth building, and we're doing it in collaboration with the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. You get a nice little notebook that talks about all the things that we've talked about today: how to save, how to pay off your debts. So check out our website. It's www.labudget.org. We encourage you to come out and come to one of these presentations.
Is there a telephone number they can call?
There is, but I don't know it off
That's
the top
okay.
of my head. I sincerely apologize. My generation, we do everything by email and Facebook and Twitter.
The millennium generation. I
and
got
text
it.
messages. So
Right.
that's how I operate.
So go to the website, right?
Go to the website.
Lauren?
No, well, certainly for high schoolers, high school aged kids, there's the Dollars and Cents program, which starts on March the 9th. But for adults, at Star Hill Baptist Church, we have a program called Wealth Builders, where we target adults with respect to laying down these principles. Jumpstart Coalition for Financial Literacy is also a group that you should Google, which is a coalition of credit unions and bankers and all sorts of professionals across the state who can help with credit counseling and with savings and investing, all these topics. So there's lots of resources out there. You just have to decide that you're serious about it and go about the business of doing it.
Okay, and David, on the resources that you were mentioning, if you could get those resources to the 100's office, and viewing audience, if you call 225-356-9444, we'll have that information for you, okay? We're about out of time. I want to thank you guys so much. I want to thank the folks out in the audience. And until later, I'm Michael Victorian. I want to thank you and keep it 100. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
Okay.
Awesome.